Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama-shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnana-anjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 33, Activities of Lord Kapila. So we are in the second section of this chapter, where we are discussing now the final Upadesh of Kapila Muni to his mother, Devahūti. So text 11. श्रद्धत्वमेतत्मतं मह्यं जुष्ट्वं यद्ब्रह्मवादिभिः येन माम् अभयं याया मृत्युं मृच्छति अतद्विदः. Translation.
My dear mother, those who are actually transcendentalists certainly follow my instructions as I have given them to you. You may rest assured that if you traverse this path of self realization perfectly, surely you shall be freed from fearful material contamination and shall ultimately reach me. Mother, persons who are not conversant with this method of devotional service certainly cannot get out of the cycle of birth and death. Purport: material existence is full of anxiety, and therefore it is fearful. One who gets out of this material existence automatically becomes free from all anxieties and fear. One who follows the path of devotional service initiated by Lord Kapila is very easily liberated. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So now here it is, the concluding Upadesh by Kapila Muni. He says, my dear mother, those who actually follow my instructions, so instructions of the Lord in Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, be rest assured that if you traverse this path, you will surely get over this fearful material existence and ultimately come back to me. So, this is the instruction of the Lord in Bhagavad Gita also. The Lord says, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosime asamshayam. He said, without doubt, you will come back to me. And persons who are not conversant with this method of devotional service, it is very difficult for them to get out of this samsara chakra, the cycle of birth and death. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the material anxiety existence is full of anxiety. And this world, therefore, is called as kuntha. Kuntha means there is some anxiety. Always there is some anxiety. Even if sometimes when we don't have money, we think that, generally when people don't have money, all their problems are solvable by money, and they think that when I become rich, I will not have anxiety. But richer people have different types of greater anxieties, right? Of course, that doesn't mean you don't become rich. But the point here is that there is no solution to material anxieties, and therefore this world is called as Kuntha Jagat. Kuntha Jagat means always there is anxiety. And if nothing is there, there is always this Janma Mrityu, Jara Vyadi, Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. These four are always there. Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, Adidaivika. Correct? And therefore, the material existence is considered to be very fearful, dreaded material existence. Why? Because a slight mistake here and there and person is completely wiped out, materially wiped out. In sometimes even in the spiritual cases, we can see that, the same thing happens. We see that Vishwamitra Muni, Saubhari, some slight mistake here and there, and therefore it is called as Shulasya Dhara. Shulasya Dhara means walking on the razor's edge. So Bhagavatam only does not describe about the Kuntit Jagat of this world. It also describes there is a better alternative which is called as Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha means without any anxiety, right? And thus one gets free from the material existence, will automatically become free from all the anxieties and fears. And what is the path there? The path is the path of bhakti-yoga, as it is enunciated by Kapila Muni in these narrations. And this is how Kapila Muni now concludes his beautiful, beautiful discussion with Mother Devahūti. Text 13. Maitreya uvacha iti pradarsha bhagavan satim tam atmano gatim subhamatra brahmavadinya kapilo anumato yayo. Translation?
Translation: Śrī Maitreya said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Kapila, after instructing his beloved mother, took permission from her and left his home, his mission having been fulfilled. Purport: the mission of the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Kapila was to distribute the transcendental knowledge of Sankhya philosophy, which is full of devotional service. Having imparted that knowledge to his mother, and through his mother to the world, Kapiladeva had no more need to stay at home, so he took permission from his mother and left. Apparently, he left home for spiritual realization, although he had nothing to realize spiritually, because he himself is the person to be spiritually realized. Therefore, this is an example set by the Supreme Personality of Godhead while acting like an ordinary human being so that others might learn from him. He could, of course, have stayed with his mother, but he indicated that there was no need to stay with the family. It is best to remain alone as a brahmachari, sannyasi, or vanprastha and cultivate Kṛṣṇa consciousness throughout one's whole life. Those who are unable to remain alone are given license to live in household life with wife and children, not for sense gratification, but for cultivation of Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So now here, Maitreya uvacha iti pradarsha bhagavan. In this way, after instructing Bhagavan tam atmano gatim, instructing his own mother, Satim, very, very respectable Devahūti, what did he do? Svamatra Brahmavadinya Kapilo Anumato Yayo. He took permission from his mother and left to the north apparently for self-realization. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, the mission of the appearance of the Supreme Lord in the form of Kapila was to distribute the knowledge of Sankhya Yoga, which is the preliminary understanding of Bhakti Yoga and which beautifully culminates in Bhakti Yoga. That is called as Sankhya Yoga. And he instructed, that was the mission. Mission is to instruct to mother and through mother to world. Just like Lord Kṛṣṇa instructs Bhagavad Gita to his friend Arjun and through Arjun to whole world. So that mission is accomplished and now he wanted to leave to the north. And he said that, oh, I want to leave for self-realization. Now, what is to be self-realization? He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. There is nothing to be spiritually realized for him. But to set an example, he walked north. Further, Srila Prabhupada writes, especially one should use one's Vanaprastha period very carefully. Now, leaving the home is practically impossible in this age of Kali. But one can remain at home and always be focused on the spiritual activities of self-realization. So this is what the cultivation of Kṛṣṇa consciousness especially means for. It is not that one has to be always in the home and one has to be always, giving opinion to beta, bahu, and, and just becoming redundant in the due course of time. One has to use this very valuable period for cultivation of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, for understanding Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and then this period is considered to be really as a golden period. Now next we see text 13 to 32 is the section 3, where we are going to see what are the activities of Devahūti, how did she perform later. 13 to 32. Text 13. Yeah. Tachapi tanayokpena yogadeshena yogayuk tasmin ashramamapide saraswatya samahita. Translation.
As instructed by her son, Devahūti also began to practice bhakti-yoga. In that very ashrama, she practiced samadhi in the house of Kṛṣṇa Muni, which was so beautifully decorated with flowers that it was considered the flower crown of the river Saraswati. Purport. Devahūti did not leave her house because it is never recommended for a woman to leave her home. She is dependent. The very example of Devahūti was that when she was not married, she was under the care of her father, Swayambhuva Manu. And then Swayambhuva Manu gave her to Kṛṣṇa Muni in charity. She was under the care of her husband in her youth, and then her son Kapila Muni was born. As soon as her son grew up, her husband left home, and similarly the son, after discharging his duty towards his mother, also left. She could also have left home, but she did not. Rather, she remained at home and began to practice bhakti yoga as it was instructed by her great son Kapila Muni. And because of her practice of bhakti yoga, the entire home became just like a flower crown on the river Saraswati.
Yeah. Sachapi, now she, as instructed by her son Kapila Muni, Devahūti began to practice bhakti yoga in that very ashram. If you remember, this very ashram, Saraswati, these are the very, very beautiful opening verse of this entire narration of, the Sankhya Yoga. And, how Kapila, Kṛṣṇa, how Kṛṣṇa and Devahūti, they were living, and how Swayambhuva Manu came to their ashram. And, if we remember that beautiful narration, the entire spanning of almost entire third canto. Now we are concluding that. She practiced samadhi in the house of Kṛṣṇa Muni. The house of Kṛṣṇa Muni we have seen, right? Palatial house. Even Indra's Amaravati, just faded away in front of this palatial house of Kṛṣṇa, which could travel at will everywhere. Beautifully decorated with the flowers. And this house was considered as the flower crown of river Saraswati. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Devahūti did not leave home. She could have said that, my dear son, you are also going out. Now, my husband is no more with me. I will also walk with you. Devahūti did not leave her house because it is never recommended for a woman to leave home. Right? In fact, the home becomes home only by the presence of the woman in the house. So it is very important. Grihastha means the sanctity of the Grihastha ashram depends on the respect given to the lady in the house. This is very, very important. Sometimes modern day civilization has become so degraded that people literally, live in the house like hostel life, for the namesake married. And people have gone just so crazy nowadays because, somehow I'm in the financial management and other things. So many cases come to us. And even devotees at times, they are like, we went to Govinda and had 400 rupees expense, 200, 200 tera, 200 mera. This kind of a degraded consciousness is pervading. But the sanctity of the house depends only on the respect that is given to the Lakshmi in the house. Okay, Lakshmi is not money in the sense, it's the lady in the house. And therefore, here, Bhagavatam recommends that a lady is never supposed to leave the home, because the home is home only because of that personality. Otherwise, it is builder's unfinished or finished project. Right? And therefore, and because they are precious, Because they are precious, they are supposed to be protected by father in the childhood, and then the father will do kanyadan. Then it is the responsibility of the husband to protect the girl, and then she will be entrusted to the son, where it is the responsibility of the son. It is not some limiting belief which is being portrayed by this woman's lip kind of a people. It is not like that. Why we are restrained and why we are constrained. That angle is never the case, right? Here the angle, here the case is that because they are very treasurable, therefore they are protected. Correct? Like simple example, chappals you will leave outside your house, and the diamond necklace you will keep way inside the bank locker. The diamond necklace will not say that, what is this, Prabhuji? You are keeping always me in the locker, and look at the chappal, it's always free and moving everywhere and something. No. Restrictions are there because they are treasure. So this is another angle. So it is very important, that how we respect the lady in the house. It is very, very important. Under any pretext, this can never be compromised. And we may cut a good figure around by having some flashy items to reflect on, or some flashy items to show to people. But unless this respect is there in the house, Krishna will not accept your devotional service. Right? Even we may be apparently a devotee and so-called chanting Hare Krishna, our devotional service will never be accepted if the lady in the house, or for that matter, let's not be very strong with Prabhuji also, that Prabhuji in the house is not very well respected, and if there is no mutual respect. Further, Srila Prabhupada explains that she could have left home, right? In fact, her home was such that it was a very dynamic home. She, simply by the mantras, she could have simply followed wherever Kapila, her son, goes. The entire house would have simply started moving following that, because that house was like, the Vimana itself by the potency of Kardama. But she remained at Saraswati. And she remained at Saraswati, and by her beautiful devotional service, the entire house became just like the flower crown of river Saraswati. If you want to see a very classic resemblance of this, I request you, if you are in Pune, visit house of Her Grace Janava Mataji. Correct. So this is something comes very close to the human experience what we can have. That is remaining, because the children got married, she is alone, remaining in the house and performing such phenomenal devotional service, and that her entire house has just become like a the flower crown, on the banks of, or at the ocean of this ISKCON and VCC. So this is how Devahūti, she conducted herself. Text 14. Abhikshna avagah kapishan jatilan kutilalakan atmanam chogratapasa bibhrati chiranim krusham. Translation.
Translation: She began to bathe 3 times daily, and thus her curling black hair gradually became grey. Due to austerity, her body gradually became thin, and she wore old garments. Purport: It is the practice of the yogi, brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasi to bathe at least 3 times daily, in the morning, during noontime, and in the evening. These principles are strictly followed even by some grahasthas, especially brahmanas, who were elevated in spiritual consciousness. Devahūti was king's daughter and almost a king's wife also. Although Kardama Muni was not a king, by his yogic mystic power, he accommodated Devahūti very comfortable in a nice palace with maid servants and all opulence. But since she had learned austerity even in the presence of her husband, there was no difficulty for her to be austere. Still, because her body underwent severe austerity after the departure of her husband and son, she became thin. To be To be too fat is not a very good for spiritually advanced life. Rather, one should reduce, because if one becomes fat, it is an impediment to progress in spiritual understanding. One should be careful not to eat too much, sleep too much, or remain in a comfortable position. Voluntarily accepting some penances and difficulties, one should take less food and less sleep. These are the procedure for practicing any kind of yoga, whether bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, or hatha yoga. Hare Krishna.
She began to bathe 3 times daily, and as her curling black hair gradually became grey, and due to severe austerity, she became very thin. And she wore the old garments because she was always presented with very lavish new garments. Here, in this case, she began to voluntarily accept that austerity of wearing the old garments. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that it is the practice of the yogi, brahmachari, vanaprastha, and but this is typically for specifically in ISKCON we have sannyasis typically doing this. Brahmacharis and grihasthas and some strict grihasthas who are strict about this, especially they will, especially after Brahman initiation and others, they will do 2 times bathing, morning bathing as usual, and when you come back from work, and then once again you bathe. So that is the recommendation. So 3 times is literally not possible, but 2 times is possible for some of them, and it is very, very personal choice, right? Another point Prabhupada writes here that Devahūti was, although she was a princess, she is the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu. She is wife of Kardama, and Kardama gave her facilities like the king would have. The palace and the maid servants and the celestial atmosphere that she had. But Devahūti had never a problem with performing austerity. In fact, before Kardama Muni even revealing his yogic powers, Devahūti served Kardama Muni with so much of austerity. And she became very thin. The same, very similar descriptions are there. Her matted hair became like jata, and she became very, very thin. And Kardama realized, oh my God, I'm doing so much of austerity. And because I'm doing austerity, she's also doing austerity. And, and then the whole thing, the next proceeded. And now, in spite of having all this opulence, she again performing austerity. Prabhupada writes here something about being too fat is not very good. And that is impediment, not only in the process of spiritual understanding, but even materially, it is a big, big impediment. Right. Right. I mean, one devotee, he was just telling me, he was quite obese. And he was telling me that, Prabhuji, one thing is about obese. Another thing is you have to carry this entire body, almost like 110, 120 kg everywhere. And it is such a big headache. Your first thing to go is the knees will collapse because knees have to handle such a huge weight on the knees. And then your ankles will collapse. Then your back will collapse. Correct. And, Prabhupada writes there, therefore, eating too much, sleeping too much, being too comfortable in a position is not very recommended for a devotee. Of course, now here we are not talking about the, genetically induced obesity and other things. But in general, if we can control our diet, we can very easily control our weight. Right. So, recently, incidentally, I just came across one of our very close relative. And she, I mean, she reduced her 15 to 18 kg of weight literally in 4 months of time without all those fancy things. You join this program and join protein shakes and, and all those things. No, I mean, just being simple, avoid sugar completely. And then, you just have no maida anywhere, no, no food items, no bakery items, no fried items, no chapati, no podi chapati, right? Because gehu has a lot of inbuilt stuff. And she's in her, I mean, late 50s, 55, 56 kind of age. And no ha hu and halla gulla and everything else. Very steadily just being normal, not going to gym and drinking protein shake, and your monthly bill is some 20,000 rupees. Each shake you look at that shake itself is 500 rupees. Nothing, just simple. Simplicity is ultimate sophistication, right? So, and when she visited us 6 months later, we were shocked because completely reduced, like 15 to 18 kgs reduced. And it is not 15 to 18 from some 108, it is like 15 to 18 from 70. So from 70, if you become 55, that's a way thin experience, right? So Prabhupada writes here that it is very important for a devotee to perform austerity, right? So and that's what Bhagavad Gita also recommends. Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta chestasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. So, and this also should reflect on one's bodily construct, right? It is not that a devotee means he's a, again, uh, here not to, even slightly mock anybody, or there are some genetic conditions, there are genetically induced obesity. But here Prabhupada does write about being too fat is not very good in devotional service. Text 15. Prajapate kardamasya tapayoga vijrumbitam swagarhyastvam anaupamyam prarthyam vaimanikam api. Translation.
The home and household paraphernalia of Kardam, who was one of the Prajapatis, was developed in such a way by dint of his mystic powers of austerity and yoga that his opulence was sometimes envied by those who travel in outer space in airplanes. Purport: the statement in this verse that Kardam Muni's household affairs were envied even by the persons who travel in outer space refers to the denizens of heaven. Their airships are not like those who have invented in we have invented in the modern age, which fly only from one country to another. Their airplanes were capable of going from one planet to another. There are many such statements in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam from which we can understand that there were facilities to travel from one planet to another, especially in higher planetary systems, and who can say that they are not still traveling. The speed of our airplanes and space vehicles is very limited, but as we have already studied, Kardam Muni traveled in outer space in an airplane which was like a city, and he journeyed to see all the different heavenly planets. That was not an ordinary airplane, not was it ordinary space travel, because Kardam Muni was such a powerful mystic yogi. His opulence was envied by the denizens of heaven.
Yeah. The home and the household paraphernalia of Kardama was so opulent that it was envied by those who were the residents of Swargaloka, having their own Vimana. And this we will see again and again, the potency of devotional service. And here, later it also comes about Ambarish Maharaj. The same description will come in the later cantos of Bhagavatam, that their opulence was envied even by the denizens of the heaven. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Kardama Muni's household affairs were envied even by the Swarga Loka Vasis, the denizens of the heaven, and with their aeroplanes when they are traveling. So here the word comes here, Vaimanikam. So Vimana and Vaimanika is not invented in 1948 by the Wright brothers. It is already existing in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, long before even existence of Kali Yuga, right? So this is not a new phenomenon. Prabhupada writes here that the modern aeroplanes can travel only from one country to another. But the Vaimanika or Vimana, which is explained in the scriptures, they can go from one planet to another. And we have seen that, Kardama Muni himself traveling to different gardens of the the heavenly planets, Amaravati, Nandan Kanan garden, and various other gardens of the universe, and just to have a merry time with his wife, Devahūti. And Prabhupada writes here, when they are traveling then, there is no reason why they are not traveling now. Only we are only so befooled by the denizens of the heaven that we think that there is nobody except people on the earth planet, everything else is vacant. It is like a very arrogant student who thinks that, oh yeah, only I am intelligent in the class. Okay, everything is a duffer, right? And only to realize that at the end of the 12th, he will realize that entire class has gone to IIT Bombay Computer Science, and this fellow is only struggling with some local college. So that is the condition of modern day humanity. So Kardama Muni had a nice, journey. He journeyed from one heavenly planet to another, and he was such a powerful yogi that his opulence was envied even by the citizens of the heaven, denizens of the heaven. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, today fast breaking time is very short, 8 minutes only.
Today's fast breaking time is from 10:19, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
10:19. So 10:20 to 10:26 to be on the safer side. So this 5-6 minutes only we have. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.